Welcome back and thank you for staying with us on KTV Primetime News. And if you're just joining us, we are streaming live our broadcast on our social media platforms on Facebook, KTV Kenya, on Twitter, KTV_Kenya. It's also live on YouTube at KTV Kenya Live. Now, following the 2023 general elections, which saw heavy campaigns from contestants for various positions, the dust in the national political arena is not settling. There's, however, a typhoon being witnessed in the institutions of higher learning as they approach the campus elections. The typhoon is, however, not turbulent as it used to be in the earlier days before the introduction of the University Amendment Bill of 2015 by the then National Assembly Majority Leader Garissa Township MP Aden Duale. This therefore sets ground for our discussion tonight, and joining me is Harrison Ngangar of Kenyatta University and Mushoki Kirera of Technical University of Kenya, both aspiring student leaders and potentially future leaders. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for dedicating your time for this discussion. All right, and probably just get the ball rolling. We'll start with you, Carrera. What is the state of student leadership from your institution? How would you describe the state of student leadership at the moment?
Okay, what I would say is that a village champion is a champion in his or her own village. So, can you imagine a situation where you have a village champion, but they're not recognized by the whole village in itself? What happens is that you have a particular faction not exactly recognizing this, and this leads to various issues. The village champion may not have these privileges, they may not be able to do several things, they may also get influence from outside because, again, they are the village champion, but once not recognized, then it doesn't go as well. That is what is happening with the delegate system.
All right. Now, let me get Harrison. What's your take? We are talking about the student leadership. What's the state of student leadership in your institution, Kenyatta University? And do you feel really that with the state of things that the interest of the students are articulated in the current student leadership?
Yeah, so maybe I would start with an introduction. My name is Harrison, an outgoing Congress and incoming KUSA chairperson. Yeah, for the state of our university, I would say it's below the expectation of most of the students, given that there are a lot of things that the students are expecting from us, the student leaders. And in consecutive of years, the student leadership have not delivered to what the student expected. So the status right now, it's just below average, and it's a call that there is a need for improvement on the same. And for the delegate system and the involvement of students in selecting their leaders, I believe within the years that the system have worked, we have seen a failure, because you find students even don't know their leaders. So even the accountability on matters leadership, you not find it very effective. Even if I don't know my president, then I don't have a chance to sit with that president to hear if he has delivered what he or she promised to these comrades. So you check the status, you see even the accountability, it's still worrying and it's a need improvement.
All right. Now, maybe just get back to you, Carrera, with this, because we're talking about the delegate system. Of course, now this is the system of elections that being used in campus following the bill that was introduced in Parliament in 2015 by the then MP for Garissa Township, Aden Duale. So it's 7 years down the memory lane since this bill was introduced to Parliament. So looking at this bill, did it satisfy the needs that it intended to satisfy? And then, was this bill really for posterity? Is it self-sustaining since it was introduced, probably satisfying whatever it wanted to satisfy? Is it for posterity that it is still self-sustaining in the years coming forward?
What I would say is, if it was trying to curtail the whole process of student activism, or rather being able to fight for what is right, then it did achieve that. But in actual sense, it really neglected the needs of the students per se. Because, for example, if we want something addressed, then what should you do? Should you just give it to somebody who has a position of formal authority without any informal authority, that is the influence? No, it becomes very, very difficult. And also, at the end of the day, you have a particular individual in that context, and this individual may not be able to push for things because they do not have backing. And the very moment they're pushed against the wall and the wall is not present, then what happens? Things go haywire. You can simply fall off a cliff. So again, it is not a particular strategy or particular, I would say. But if the goal was to really quail the student activism, then it really did.
Right. So, what do you make of this bill? Of course, Harrison, you had started to mention about this bill. What do you make of this bill? Is it was it meant for posterity? Should we continue with things the way they are in this bill, or do you feel there are some amendments that need to be done to this bill to make sure that the needs and the interests of the students that you're representing in different capacities are well articulated?
Yeah, I believe maybe the bill came because if you check the previous years, we have had this student activism affecting the student fraternity in terms of strikes. Now and then there was demonstrations, people are just maybe destroying the university properties. So the bill maybe came to address some of those issues, but I believe it wasn't meant now to erase the student leadership in a manner that student issues are not are not addressed, because given now the introduction of the bill gave the administration a chance now even to introduce leaders who can address matter students. So you find as much as it had maybe a common good to ensure that there is that stability in the university. It also affected at large the student leadership and the way matters students are addressed. So for me, I feel that it should be erased and removed from the system. We need to go back to one man, one vote. We need to go back to the popular voting of the system which was there previously before the delegates system, because you find this system only give a few people to select their leaders. And when a leader is selected by few people, then maybe the larger community might not recognize and give him or her the legitimacy that he or she requires. So for me, I feel they should just scrap it off and bring back the popular way of voting so that we can know our leaders, and also we can now bring back the activism of students and student leaders that was there before the bill was introduced.
All right. I don't know, Kerera, how do you want to weigh in onto this? Do you feel really the bill should be scrapped off and we go back to how things used to be in the past, or you feel that probably you should just make amendments to the bill that was introduced in 2015?
I strongly believe it should be scrapped off, majorly because, again, it does not give leaders the legitimacy that they deserve. And again, it curtails the democratic right of a student leader and of its people as well in that particular institution. So all in all, I strongly believe that we have so many things we can advocate for if we have everybody involved in the process. Again, as I said, there is formal authority and informal authority. So the very moment you have somebody in a formal authority position and they do not have that informal authority, that influence, what does it do? You can barely fight for students' needs. You can barely go and talk about the things that are facing, the issues facing our students. So again, I feel as if it should be scrapped off or something else be introduced as well, along the lines of ideologies and parties, but that is generally the trajectory I'd want it to take, but not this whole process that curtails the activism that students can actually demonstrate.
All right, interesting. Now, maybe I just want to borrow from what we saw, the events we saw before the 2020 general elections. We saw the Azimio side, which was headed by, of course, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. They made recommendations to the electoral body that for us to participate in this electoral process, these are some of the requirements. These are some of the recommendations that we need so that, we'll be satisfied with the results that shall be announced following these general elections. So, for you, now that you are eyeing the chairmanship of the different institutions, of course, that you're coming from. And it's interesting, of course, because you told me that you've served in the different capacities. You're going, of course, leaders in different, of course, dockets. So have you tried to table some of these recommendations that, yes, we have a bill that was passed in Parliament on how things are supposed to be run, but as we've served in different dockets, we feel this is what should be done. The 2015 bill, the Universal Amendment Bill, we feel it's not in a way representing what really our electorates need. So have you gone ahead to be accountable, of course, now to try to amplify the voice of the students by rectifying the voices and the needs of the students in terms of leadership? Harrison, I think we'll just start with you.
So for me, I would say previously, if you see the student leaders in the different capacities and different universities, they have not come together, even maybe to draft something that will be presented in the Parliament or in the Senate for a proposal of a different system of voting or a different system to run our election. And this one would only call now for us to just team up and ensure we sit down, have a way forward as student leaders, and bring back. You see, we had good organizations previously, which used to bring together student leaders and students from different institutions, which ensured that such bills and such bills are tabled in the Parliament. So for me, I would only call to the student leaders, even in different institutions, either in Nairobi or outside, that they come together. Because at this time, we can just come together, form something, and draft a bill that maybe would be a game changer now for the delegates bill. Because mostly the unity, because if you draft something and you want to take it to the Parliament, I believe it's affecting the whole student fraternity, not just in your institution, but even in other institutions in Kenya. So, and I've not seen that unity amongst the student leaders that would now give a voice. Because you also need a voice, you also need an influence that you're able to push such motions and such bills to go and be implemented in the Parliament. So for me, I would only view it that it's just a lack of unity that have made us not make such proposals. And I think it's time also, we as the student leaders, to team up and come up with a good proposal and a game changer for the delegates bill.
All right, Kerera, what's your take on this? This is a bill that has been in the country for about 7 years. So if you assume office, of course, in the position that you're vying for, is it something that you would advocate for, that we get to see a change in terms of student leadership?
Yes, I would greatly. There's a Latin saying that says, e pluribus unum, which means out of many, one. I agree with what Harrison had actually said. It's that the very moment we come together is when we realize that all our problems, all our issues are quite similar. So yes, I would definitely stand against it, or rather speak on it so that it could be adapted a bit more to accommodate our students. And as he said, a unifying factor is very, very important. I think this is a moment to call to action to all youth, all university students, colleges, TVETs, and all these individuals who are within that bracket to at least come out and unify, because at the end of the day, a unified front is better than a divided one.
Right.
At this point, what has happened is that we are very much divided. But what we want to do, or what we have to do, is come together in unison and be able to talk about the things that face us, the issues that we face, the problems that we have, the solutions that we can be able to develop. And I think with that, we'd be creating a country that would be very suitable to stay in the future.
All right. Interesting. Now, of course, just trying to listen to some of the points, of course, that you're bringing forward. I might be able to, of course, come into conclusion that some of the powers of the students, the kind of powers that the student leadership had before had been strangled, of course, with this bill. Because traveling back in the memory lane, we saw the kind of vibrance that was witnessed in the 1970s, the 1980s, and of course the 1990s. Of course, probably when talking about the 1980s, the coup attempt was orchestrated by students from the University of Nairobi. And of course, other things, other good things when it comes to fighting for democracy were done by student leaders. leaders. But in the 2000s and when the vibrance now was not so much as it was in the previous years, students did not take up their role. So assuming that, of course, maybe you get into position and you champion for the scrapping off of this 2015 University Amendment Bill, what are some of the priorities that you might want student leadership to go back to? Because student leadership does not just end at the university level, because the student leaders, of course, when they go outside, they become the national leaders. So what are some of the things that you feel that the student leadership should also be addressing nationally? Kerala, we'll start with you.
I think, first of all, as students, and again, I say students, and what we also need to realize is that we are a very big part of the youth. We are meant to be the watchdogs, per se, of the government as is. So even with the new government that's coming in, we need to be able to see and be able to gauge what exactly is happening. Be able to stand up when things go wrong, be able to applaud them when things go right. Again, in this instance, what we have is a watchdog that is tied to a chain. And what happens in that case? If a thief gets in, you can't be able to do anything. So what we would want to do, or what I would want to do in that capacity, is at least have a system of students and youth as a whole within the country who can stand up and point out issues that we're facing.
Right.
Stand up and point out when things are not going in the direction we want to, and at least be able to bring out the solutions, bring out the ideas, because we are a brilliant lot, and I think that will make a very big difference.
Right, interesting. So Harrison, what do you feel, student leadership, what role really should it be playing in terms of the national leadership? Because in terms of being elite, the people from the tertiary learning institutions, you understand some of these policies better than the people who elect leaders to go and make them in parliament. So what role do you feel that the student leadership should also be playing in the national politics?
Yeah, so for me, I feel that one, we should strengthen the regional student leadership organizations, especially the national ones, so that because if we need a voice and if we need a platform that we can address and shape even the decisions that are being made nationally, we need also to unite. So, and if we don't have a strengthened platform that these students and these leaders can express themselves freely. Because I would say that as much as we are student leaders in the university, also the university has a structure and has a management. So sometimes we are just constrained to the issues matters that university, and we are not able to come out and speak on behalf of the students in a proper manner and also address the national issues. But if we can strengthen these regional organizations, which now will be making statement on behalf of so many students, especially now from different institutions, that one can now give us a chance even to be part of the table and be able to shape the opinion nationally. Right. Again, also, it's a collaboration, because we need also to go and sit down with the readers and also the ministries that are in charge of us as the students and us as the youth, so that we get a platform and we know where we can collaborate, so that we don't just come out to speak on the negatives, but we also participate in the positives.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, probably because my director is telling me we need to be winding this up, but I also need to give you, of course, this platform, because now that you are future leaders, of course, now we saw during the campaigns, the politicians were making promises to the electorates that maybe in the first 100 days in office, this is what we want to achieve, this is what we want to deliver to our electorates. So now that you're also eyeing very prime positions in the student leadership, I want to start with you, Kerala. What are the needs that what are the needs of your electorates that you'd wish to address, of course, when you rise to this position?
First and foremost, I would want to say that in our institution, we have the talent, we have the skills, we have the knowledge, but one of the key things we lack are opportunities. So what I want to do, and what I have done in the recent past, is try and really work on and exploit the opportunities that we have out there. Because let me give you, for example, you might have the best talent, you might have the best journalists, best mathematicians, best businessmen, but you do not have a chance to link up to the world. What we are planning to do is to have strategic partnerships, be able to talk to organizations that can actually take our students, be able to bring these things closer, because yes, we do have the opportunities and we have the people who are in need of the opportunities, but what we lack is the accessibility. So one of the key things we want to do is create more opportunities, and I strongly believe with that we will creating a better pipeline for students between the outside world and the institution itself.
Right, amazing. So, for you, Harrison, what do you feel are the needs of your electorates that when you clinch this position, probably you'd wish to give them priority and address them in your leadership?
Yeah, first I would address the quality of education in our institution, because currently you get the students are not getting the right information and the way they are supposed to be taught. It's not being done in the best manner. Actually, if you check even the feedback from the students on matters lecturers, on matters equipments, they are not getting to the capacity they are supposed to get it. So for me, one is to address the quality of education. Second, matters policies. We have so many policies. I served as a congressperson, and I can tell you there are so many policies which are in these institutions that are constraining the students even to express themselves. Talk of social media policies, talk of other policies, which if you just address something that you can't just come out and speak freely because of these policies. So for me, one, I would love to change a number of policies, which I will list down in my manifesto, and again, change the quality of education, and lastly, address matter student welfare, which now carries the accommodation, security, and other issues of the students, which right now, they are not being addressed, and there is need and a gap. There is that gap that we need to fill at this moment. Yeah.
All right. I think that's interesting and impressive for now. And because of time, my director is telling me that we need to move on to other segments of news. And of course, when you clinch these offices, hopefully I'll bring you back so that we hold you accountable to some of these promises and the good initiative that you have for the country, and of course for the students that you will be leading in different capacities. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming.